everyone. Welcome to the 5 Beer Plan. I'm Brian, and this is the ongoing saga of an Everyman's Ale Trail. In this episode, I channel my inner Friar Tuck, feed the yeast in my homebrew project, conclude my conversation with Jeff from Loaded Dice Brewery, and review a non-alcoholic option from Wisconsin Brewing Company. But before we get this party started, here is this episode's burning question. What is your go-to beer for Thanksgiving? I think my favorite ones would have to be a couple of fruited sours from Urban Artifact in Cincinnati, Ohio. The first one is called Operation Plowshare, which is a Midwest fruit tart brewed with blackberry and vanilla bean. The second was also a Midwest fruit tart brewed with blackberries, raspberries, and vanilla bean. Both paired well with the savory elements of the meal. It has taken me all summer to get here, but finally I will dig into my first yeast strain. To go along with the yeast used in my current homebrew project, we will travel to Sherwood Forest. This episode, Nottingham Ale Yeast from Lallemand Brewing and Scott Labs is what we're going to investigate. The Lallemand website shares the following information. Lallbrew Nottingham is an English-style ale yeast selected for its high performance and versatility. Neutral flavor and consistent performance across diverse fermentation conditions make it an ideal house strain for producing a wide variety of beer styles. It is one of the original heritage strains selected from the Lallemand Yeast Culture Collection when Lallemand Brewing was founded in 1992. Traditional styles brewed with this yeast include, but are not limited to, pale ales, ambers, porters, stouts, and barley wines. In addition to those traditional styles, Lallbrew Nottingham can be used to produce golden ale, Kolsch, lager-style beers, IPAs, and imperial stout, among others. It is stress-tolerant, making it a good choice for high-gravity, sours, restarting stuck fermentations, and other challenging fermentation conditions. As we learned all summer long, certain qualities of yeast that classify them and help us understand why one yeast is better than another for beer styles and brewing conditions. Just a quick recap on the important ones. Attenuation is the percentage that the yeast has reduced the specific gravity of the wort, and flocculation is the process by which the yeast sticks together and eventually clumps during fermentation so that it can do its work. Nottingham ale yeast has an attenuation of 78 to 83% and ferments in the range of 50 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit, which makes it pretty versatile. Its flocculation is rated as high, with an alcohol tolerance of up to 14% ABV. The name got me thinking about the origins of the yeast strain. Clearly its roots are based in the United Kingdom. After a bit of searching, I found the following from a forum on Jim's Beer Kit for Practical Brewing coming from the UK. I think and assume it just must be the genetic composition of the strain that makes it very tolerant to temperature. Some strains have a very good temperature tolerance and others do not, and it is related to genetics. There is not a lot to share or reveal about the origins of the strain, which has been in the Lallemand Culture Collection for about 30 years. My understanding is that it was originally a multi-strain culture given to Lallemand by a chain of chemists and pharmacies in the UK who asked the company to dry a yeast for insertion into homebrew kits. The culture had 4 strains in it, and these were isolated into single-strain yeasts. One of these became Nottingham, and 2 of the other strains were Windsor and London, which is still produced commercially. There was no information about the origin of the brewery that the multi-strain culture came from. There are always lots of rumors and guesses about where strains come from, but most of the time it's not that exciting. It is simply taken from a culture collection with little to no information about the origin. So I think it's going to be fun learning about specific strains of yeast. Hopefully, this gives you a little bit more insight into what old Friar Tuck is doing with Nottingham ale yeast in his homebrewing project here on the podcast. In this segment of Homebrew Hijinks, it's time to pitch the yeast in the Northern Border Porter. Now that the wort was ready, it was time to cool it to a temperature that would be appropriate for my yeast. As usual, I made a 1-gallon batch of sanitizer using my powdered PBW. I bleached my sink and then used the PBW to sanitize my glass carboy and fittings, stockpot lid, large metal spoon, kitchen scissors, yeast packet, 1-cup glass measuring cup, and surrounding area of my workspace, as I didn't want to introduce any bacteria into the now pasteurized wort. I prepared the ice bath at about the 10-minute mark of my boil. This would get the ice water good and cold for chilling the wort. My simple system works pretty well. The boil kettle / pasta pot fits just perfectly in my deep well stainless steel sink with a 7-pound bag of ice. After pulling the kettle from the stove, I covered it with my sanitized lid and placed it into the ice bath. I swirled it around every so often just to circulate the cooling wort. After about 10 minutes, I drained off some of the water in the sink and added another 7-pound bag of ice and topped off the water as needed. Periodically, I used my instant read thermometer to measure the temperature of the wort. My target was 68 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. A quick tip for my listeners. Since I still had my PBW in the pitcher, I dipped my instant read probe after each measurement into the cooling wort to keep it sanitary. This time, I was using Lallemand Nottingham Ale yeast, which is pretty robust and will stand up to a lot of extreme conditions. So once I hit my target wort temperature, I drew off 2/3 of a cup of cooled wort for measurement and then carefully poured the remainder into my carboy. I used my steel spoon to vigorously stir the chilled wort to add some oxygen. I cut open the yeast packet and pitched it into the wort. I sealed up the carboy and then began to clean up. I used my hydrometer and measured the specific gravity, the original gravity in this instance, and found it to be 1060, which was 16 points below my target. As I suspected, this will not be the 8% ABV porter I had hoped for. Next episode, it's time for fermentation. Now, it's time for Barstool Banter. This episode, I go all in with Jeff Smith from Loaded Dice Brewery in Troy, Michigan, who is always coming up with crazy ideas that his patrons really love and miss when he doesn't do them the following year. We wrap up our interview talking about brewing, his favorite beer styles, and of course, my favorite question. I know you've already mentioned you really like the bourbon barreling. Is that one of your favorite styles of beer?
Seems like when I'm going to sit down and drink something, like I don't have to worry about anything, I usually lean into the bourbon barrel aged beers. I used to be just a huge IPA guy, and I kind of drifted away from that. And it's either like really crushable lagers or really big, stupid beers. So,
Seems like that's usually the trend. Once you find someone that's been in the industry for a while, it's like, yeah, I enjoy those things. But, the older I get, I can't sit around and drink a bunch of, IPAs these days, unless I preload with a bunch of Tums.
right.
So I'm just going to keep pivoting here because this is so much fun.
Sure.
I have a beer that you shared. Thank you for sending some cans with me. That was pretty awesome. I have one called Gambling with the Knucklebones of Wolves. It is a 10% English barley wine. Can you tell me about this perfect fall weather beer?
So this goes back to about a year and a half ago when I hired my current brewer. He was kind of rewriting all my recipes, and I had a barley wine that I put in Earl Grey tea. And he's like, you don't need to do that. I'm like, well, you make me a good barley wine. So he got really excited because, where he was at formerly didn't really do barley wines often. And we started calling our little team here. So it's myself, my GM, my brewer, Eric. We call ourselves the Wolf Pack. So that's where the name kind of comes from, because I'm a researcher by trade. So I like digging into the weeds, and I have a catalog of stories about gambling and all that. So the name comes from this naturalist, which I never can remember his name, but he would go into the wild and live in the wild. And this is like early America time frame. And he found this tribe of Indians. And one of the games that they would play was a rolling kind of dice game, but it was using the knucklebones of wolves. I'm like, that's kind of a cool ass name.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where the beer name came from, the origin of it. But we think that this time of year, a really cool barley wine, always hits well. It's full of tobacco. It's full, it gives that little leathery feel, dark fruits, really soft, mellow mouth feel. I enjoy that beer probably more than I probably should. That is also another beer that we took to GABF, and that was received pretty well.
Yeah, I would agree. And I cheated a little bit because I poured this about 10 minutes before the meeting was supposed to start. So, because I wanted it to warm up a little bit. But yeah, I get that. I get the, like you said, the dark fruit, the leathery, tobacco-y kind of notes. It's super smooth. It's got just a tiny bit of burn. I mean, you wouldn't know it was 10%, really. It's a
Yeah.
solid beer.
Thank you.
Cheers, Eric.
Yeah. He does good work, man.
Do you miss brewing?
I'm, that's a great question. I don't think I miss the actual grind of brewing. I think if I had to take away everything that I have to do as far as from the ownership standpoint, I would miss it more. My mind's just so full of crap that I don't have time to really dwell on it. I do play in the brew house quite a bit still. I help out with the brew day as much as I possibly can. The system here is a little, like I said, it's a homebrew system, so it's not automated whatsoever. We have to grain out in an alley because it's too small to do it in the brew house. So we have the system on casters and we roll it out there, which is always a challenge in the winter in Michigan, but which is why we front load a lot of beer right now. But regardless, I think because I'm so involved with the creative process of brewing and kind of the timeline of everything coming out, because we do a lot of little like small events, in addition to every other wacky thing I do, that's kind of like satiating the missing brewing a little bit. But I think like I never want to stop brewing, but I also think Eric does a way better job than I ever could. So being in the tech industry, one of the adages like you hire people that are better at what you do, and that's kind of the approach I took with Eric. So
Yeah, to be successful in this industry anyway, you really need to surround yourself with good people that are going to make the business what it should be. How many years of experience does Eric have brewing?
he came out of a college called School of Craft that's in Livonia about I think 8 years ago now. He swooped right in. He was hired in at Brew Detroit, was the pub and innovation brewer there. Did that for about 7 years, and then luck has it, we did a collaboration, and it was with Rice Aroni. He thought that was really weird, but he also was really interested into doing stuff like that. So he knew I would let him have a playground. So that's one of the reasons why he took the change.
Well, that's really interesting. So, Schoolcraft has a brewing program, and I think Grand Valley in Grand Rapids it also has a brewing program. I think that's really cool because I don't think I've ever really talked to anybody who's been quote unquote schooled in brewing. And most everybody that I've talked to is, I cut my teeth, as you said, home brewing, or I was an assistant somewhere and,
Right.
came in, mopping the floors and got up to the brewing. So that's pretty cool. With your creativity and his knowledge, maybe a little bit more of the technical side of things, that really is probably great marriage there. And that's probably why your beer is so amazing.
Oh, thank you. It's actually been really great. Like I could not have asked for a better brewer to join me. He's has no problem telling me no, that's not the best idea. Or, like if I want to do like, let's say just a fruity pebble beer, I want to put fruity pebbles in it. He's like, well, we can emulate those flavors by doing X, Y, and Z. You don't need to put fruity pebbles in it. Like, yeah, that makes good on the social media. All right, well, we can fake it. He's been great. Honestly, I'm so honored and privileged to have him as my brewer.
That's great. Well, congrats again. One of the other things that I think, we're talking about these big crazy beers, and you mentioned, Fruity Pebbles. Those hype kind of beers are cool, but I also think that they end up being sometimes a little too cloying, maybe a little bit too artificial tasting, because let's face it, everything that we eat has, artificial ingredients in it. Even though I appreciate breweries who lean into those kinds of things, I also appreciate those that are like, we can do it other ways. We can do it with, natural fruits. We can do it with, like you said, that you use some smoked grain to emulate the bacon. You don't use real bacon in there. I mean, those are ways you can get around it and still kind of stay true to yourself as a brewer too.
Well, it's funny because I don't know, being a owner of a brewery and a brewer, you look at some of these things and you want to know how they did it. Like at GABF, 903 did a Cool Ranch Dorito beer. And not saying it was bad, not saying it was good. it was just like, how? Because it
Right.
tasted like ranch. Like it was, it was the strangest thing. Like I didn't, it smelled like a Cool Ranch Dorito. It tasted like that, and it's weird, but there's a line for it. Those are the places you do that kind of beer at. I would never put that on a shelf anywhere. It's a lot of fun, but at the same time, like I'm also really proud of our loggers that we put out, and you can't hide behind anything with that.
Yeah. So how many beers do you have on tap at any given time?
We fluctuate between 8 and 12. Right now, I think we have 11. We're putting on another one tomorrow, but we'll probably take one off. One's just at its end. It's been on tap for a minute, and you can kind of tell. So a little quality control there. It might be time to retire that one.
Sure.
So
I mean, that's good to hear because sometimes you hear people go into breweries, they're like, oh, yeah, I had such and such beer and they had it 2 weeks ago and they had it 2 weeks later. It's like, oh, it's terrible. It's changed. Beer doesn't last forever, unfortunately.
that's been the like one of the bigger challenges is like just the inventory flow. Like how do you predict? I mean, our IPAs don't stay on any IPA doesn't stay on
Yeah.
tap. Maybe we have one that's kind of in its like fifth week, and that's when we really start seeing tasting and smelling kind of like IPAs starting to kind of step down a little bit. That's been interesting to try to figure out. Like, what's that game? You can't have too many stouts on tap. You can't have too many IPAs on tap, and you're ultimately not going to have something for everybody. Don't even try.
Here's an idea. Maybe you should have your beer that you're hoping to get off the line at some point because it's, like you said, it's past its time. Maybe you should have one called the crapshoot. And it's basically like $3 pint or $4 pint, something that's really discounted and try to get it to fly off the shelf.
We do similar things like that. Like when we can, like whenever you first start running a canning line, you're going to have low fills. So they're just 10 to 15, grams off of the weight. And also like either they dropped and they get dented, or we run out of labels, or we sometimes forget what beer it was we were canning and we walk away. So we have this thing called misfit bets. People can say, I want a misfit bet, and they'll come in and they'll roll a dice with me or Ben or whomever's working, and they pay the difference. So if you roll a 6, I roll a 1, you got to pay $5. If you roll a 5 and I roll a 3, it's $2. It's actually more fun than it is like, because I would just toss those beers.
Right, exactly.
But
Exactly.
people don't mind as long as they know. I mean, it's not like we keep them forever. I mean,
Yeah.
we can probably once a week, and we kind of let that go for over the weekend. And once that's done, we throw them out. The regulars really seem to like it and they enjoy it, so I'll just keep doing it.
It sounds like fun, honestly. Again, it plays into the whole idea of the casino and the betting. And
Right.
yeah, you might win, you might lose, but
And
ultimately you
then
get to have a beer, which I guess is still a win.
we do like Wheel of Fun night, so a spinning wheel, and we'll mark little things on it like $3 off this beer for an hour, $5 off any T-shirt. People like that, so we just keep doing little things like that to kind of help either move product or just make it a unique experience.
Right. Well, that keeps people coming back too. And for your regulars, I suppose, as well. It's a
Right.
little incentive for them, because they're the ones that are ultimately paying your bill week after week by coming
Yeah, they
in
are.
week after week. So you mentioned that you used to do a crazy amount of beers early on, and you're trying to slowly get to more of a core set of beers and then maybe a few that are rotating. How many core beers do you plan to have?
That's tough. I have a list of like 42 beers. You kind of in a way have to, right? Especially like if you just look at the IPA segment. I mean, you have regular IPA, Midwest IPA, American IPA, Session IPA, Double IPA, and we like them all. So why don't we? And then starting getting into the hazies with different hop profiles, because
Right.
New Zealand hazy IPA is going to be completely different than one with Citra and Mosaic. So we kind of always make sure that we have like at least 1 to 2 IPAs on, at least 1 to 2 lagers on, 2 to 3 other kind of multi beers. So an ESB, a porter, a brown, a sour. So we kind of look at it that way. So as long as we have like a pretty diverse menu, we don't really want to focus on core beers, but we do bring like we have our hazy IPAs, basically Juicy Side Bet, Basic Strategy, Third Wave, but we always have one of those on. And so that's kind of the way that we approach it. And we'll do kind of variants of those. So we do a double dry hop version of Juicy Side Bet. We'll do an imperial version of Basic Strategy to kick it up over around 9%. Basic Strategy is Citra, Mosaic. Now we use a Zaka because of Galaxy. No one likes it anymore. So we'll just do a double IPA version or a triple IPA version of that using the same hops. And the guests really like it because they can kind of see the difference once you start accelerating, malt profiles and grain bills and, hop bills. Like it changes the beer completely.
And I think that kind of plays into your tagline, right? The whole idea of bringing the spirit of homebrewing back to craft beer, because not only do you and Eric get to play with those things, but your customers also are seeing, oh, this is what the difference is between a dry hop beer and a non-dry hop beer. This is what a New Zealand hop tastes like versus Pacific Northwest hop. I mean, I think that's great to help educate as well.
All that can change, when you add hops, where you add it in the boil, when you dry hop it. Do you dry hop it 3 days or 5 days out? I mean, it changes the beers severely.
Yeah. I started homebrewing almost 2 years ago. And that's been one of the things that has been fun to do, is to try to figure out what that hop schedule looks like. Because even beers that I thought, yeah, those are pretty good, but I'm like, well, how can I make that a little bit better so that I have a little bit more of the sweetness instead of the earthiness on the beer instead. It's fun, and the combinations are endless really when it comes down to it.
Yeah. And what kind of home brewer are you? Are you I'm gonna brew the same beer over and over again to perfect it? No.
When I started out, I wanted to do IPA, I wanted to do a porter, I wanted to do a stout, I wanted to try out a few different styles, see what I kind of like, see how I would fare with those things. And now I'm really trying to figure out how I can tweak those a little bit. But I can't do lagers because I really don't have any place to cold crash my beer.
Live in Ohio, crash in the garage.
It's another thing I've thought about doing the wintertime here, to be honest with you. That's on my radar as well. Honestly, I'll try anything once, whether it's drinking, whether it's brewing something. I love to learn, but homebrewing, it's a blast. I do 1 gallon batches. I have a 2.5 gallon pasta pot. I have a 1.5 gallon carboy that we got from a Northern Brewer kit, and that's what I use over and over again. Yeah. I get 8 to 10 bottles, maybe 12 bottles of beer, and it's enough for me to enjoy, give a couple away. And I don't want to get stuck with a beer that's okay when I can just go out and buy something that's really good.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of where I was at. But I like the aspect of being like the communal aspect of brewing, and that's why we went this route.
Yeah. As we get ready to wrap up here, I always ask everyone my favorite fun question at the end. And that is, if you were a beer, what style would you be and why?
I would probably have to say, so people may have other opinions of this, but almost like a fruited sour, just because I think that's a playground that you can really get into, that style that you can make it whatever you want to make. And, that's kind of been my approach on my life. Like, I'm never going to do things the traditional way. So I think it's probably the most accurate answer I could give.
Okay. That's what I want. I want honesty and accuracy.
I put glitter in beer sometimes. So.
Yeah, the first time I ever had one of those, it was from Dukla. They have one called Unicorn Farts. And I was like, wait, what is this? My wife walked by, she's like, what's wrong with your beer? I'm like, it's got glitter in it. She's like, what the hell?
I've done it a couple times. I was doing this series called the Performer Series, which was inspired from Vegas performers. So it was a Wayne Newton beer. It was a black IPA with strawberries and astronaut ice cream, because don't know why, but that's what I wanted to make. And then we put glitter in it because he always wears glitter.
Right.
And it was a black IPA, so you couldn't really see the glitter. But if you held it up to the light, you could see it, and everybody was just amazed at it. And then we'd brew a beer for Pride Month every year called Rainbow Jackpot. And this is actually was the idea of one of my employees who's, really big in the community. And she said, I thought maybe it was taking it too far, but she's like, put Fruit Loops in it. And then we'll make it a milkshake IPA and we'll add glitter. I'm like, all right, I guess let's do that. So we did it.
Did it turn out okay?
Oh, it's great. We didn't brew it this year and people were really upset. Not like they just missed it in a way. It's strange because, talking about like core beers, like I have probably 4 or 5 milkshake IPAs that I really like making. And we make them usually in the summer. And Eric was like, yeah, I'm done. We can't make these anymore. So he did 2 of them for me. And I think by the time we got to Rainbow Jackpot time, he's like, we got 2 on tap. We don't need 3. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, but everybody was expecting it. So we're going to dial that back a little bit.
Sure.
Probably just do Rainbow Jackpot and one other this year.
Yeah. Yeah. How far out do you usually plan your beers?
Right now, we're planned through the end of the year only because we do this newer thing. We did it last year called Vi-sided Lagerfest. So VI in Roman numerals six sides of a dice,
Okay.
Vi-sided. And we do 6 different lagers over 3 weeks. So we kind of really have to meticulously plan that because lagers take time. And it's another one of my silly ideas. If you come, you can have one of each beer, you get a poker chip. You turn in all 6 poker chips at the end of the 3 weeks, you get a t-shirt. And they're made like a concert shirt. So all the names of the beers are on the back. It's got the logo for the Lagerfest, and it's fun. People got
Cool.
really into it last year, and everybody's been asking for it. And we thought it was gonna be a one-off, but we're able to do it here because we're kind of like got a system down and doing it again this year.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to chat. It's been great to talk with you, learn a little bit more about Loaded Dice. If you're in the Troy area, be sure to stop in, say hi to Jeff, go drink one of these knuckle bones, because boy, it is a tasty, tasty barley wine. Appreciate you, man, and hopefully I'll be able to get up there again and sit down with a face-to-face beer.
Yep, please do. You're always
Hey,
welcome.
thanks, Jeff. Have a great weekend.
Thanks.
Last call.
It's nearly time to wrap things up, but first, one more for the road. This episode, I'm drinking Harley-Davidson Road King American Pils from Wisconsin Brewing Company in Verona, Wisconsin. From the brewer, an American Pils that is a perfectly balanced and refreshing brew with just a touch of hops for a clean, crisp finish. Without further delay, further information on the WBC website gives the following background information. 2 friends from 2 great Wisconsin companies, Wisconsin Brewing Company and Harley-Davidson, decided Harley-Davidson riders and fans need a more exciting and better tasting non-alcoholic brew. So over the course of 9 months, they developed Harley-Davidson Road King non-alcoholic American Pils, customized to bring full flavor and ultimate refreshment. Road King is custom built by Harley-Davidson fans for Harley-Davidson fans, and frankly, for anyone that seeks great tasting non-alcoholic options. We know motorcycling and alcohol don't mix. We also know that non-alcoholic beers are booming. Unfortunately, a lot of non-alcoholic brands are boring and suffer from all being the same. We decided to do something about that and created Harley-Davidson Road King. Our first brew, a custom-crafted, non-alcoholic American Pils, tastes as good as it looks. So, visually, this looks like an American Pilsner. It is a clean, clear straw color. It has a nice, foamy white head. Again, if I didn't know any different, I would think that this was just a standard, regular American Pilsner. On the nose, it's got that bready aroma that I would expect from such a beer. Maybe just a tinge of sweetness. But again, just looking at this, smelling it, looks valid to me. So, first sip impression. Okay, so again, if you did not tell me it was a non-alcoholic brew, I would have expected to just be more of a light American Pilsner. It has just a slight bit of effervescence on the tongue. It has that typical malty backbone and profile. And it even has just a slight hint of hops on the finish. It is a light-bodied beer, so it doesn't really have a whole lot of mouthfeel, which I wouldn't expect from the American Pilsner. Now, I'm not a motorcycle hobbyist or enthusiast at all, but I could see the appeal of this beer. After a long day of riding, it would be nice to sit around and drink a few of these crisp, refreshing American Pilsners. I'll also say here, they did a great job just with the all-around package. The can art is fantastic, and it is one that I'm going to put on my shelf. It was created by Dirty Donnie, an artist licensed to use the Rat Fink style art originated by the legendary artist Ed Roth. Ratfink is characterized by a grotesque, cartoonish aesthetic with exaggerated features like bulging, bloodshot eyes, a large toothy grin, and a generally menacing expression, often depicted as a green or gray rat with a rebellious anti-Mickey Mouse vibe, created by artist Ed Big Daddy Roth and typically associated with hot rod culture and custom culture of the 50s and 60s. Honestly, this pushes it over the edge for me. I give this one 3.5 tasters out of 5 on the flight board. Cheers, Wisconsin Brewing, and cheers, Harley Davidson. I'm always looking for new craft beverages to review, so if you've got one from your favorite local craft brewery, meadery, or cidery you'd like me to drink and describe, reach out and let me know. That's all for this episode of the 5 Beer Plan. With so many podcasts out there, thanks for choosing to listen to mine. Join me next time as I strive to learn more about yeast, continue my homebrew project, kick off a new interview, and review some holiday beer. Remember to hit the subscribe button on your preferred podcast platform to be notified of new episodes. Follow me on Instagram as well, 5beerplan2022, to see what is happening on my personal ale trail. I'd love to hear from you, and there are several ways you may do so. Leave a comment for this episode on Spotify, direct message me on Instagram, or email me directly, 5beerplan@frontier.com. Be sure to support your local breweries, choose your beers wisely, and drink them responsibly. Until next time, keep walking your ale trail, and stay thirsty, my friends.